Hello friends, I am upset. Now, I am upset quite often, and most of the time it's for a bad reason. It's because I don't like a map or I don't like a certain playstyle that someone plays. But this time I actually think it's valid. I am upset because tournaments keep playing with the stupid Colossus bug in there. So for the people that are not aware, currently live on the ladder, and as well if you play any type of melee game, the Colossus after thermal lands has 10 range. It should only be 9 range, according to what we know about all the patch notes. During scheduled maintenance on the 12th of July, somehow, some way, this version of the game accidentally made it into the live game. So every ladder game and every default melee map that you can play in the custom game section is going to have a Colossus with 10 range. Now, this is not a massively impactful change, but it does impact one matchup in particular quite a bit, and that is the Protoss versus Terran matchup. Let me state one more time that this is a bug. This is not a ninja patch of some kind. This is not behind the scene and we sneak it in. Protoss better against Terran because Protoss were struggling. No, I know a lot of people think that. That is not the case at all. This is a bug, and I believe it should be treated as a bug. So the moment you're hosting a tournament, especially a tournament that has some type of EPT points on the line, so it helps in the qualification process for the World Championship, I think these tournaments should take a bug serious and try to get a hot-fixed mod out. What you can do is you can just put a mod on the map and then change the balance of it. The same that there's a balance mod and you can put changes in there. You could have done the same to fix this bug. Now, to be fair to some of the tournaments, and I'm specifically talking about GSL here, the bug got introduced in the game on the 12th of July, or maybe the 11th of July at night. It got discovered on the 14th by most people. And the GSL played a Group D of their round of 16, I think it was, in which Australia played. And in those games, Australia had Colossi with 10 range. Now, luckily for the GSL, Austria didn't make it out of that group winning PVTs. If that would have happened, I think it would have significantly damaged the integrity of that tournament had a Protoss made it out in the matchup that is most impacted by this particular bug. Fast forward a week, and I believe we're on the 20th of July, we have another PVT scenario. We have Hero versus Cure in Group B of the round of 8, and we also have Hero versus TY in the round of 8 of the Group B of round of 8. In both of those series, only in a single game are Colossus constructed. And when they get constructed, they have 10 range. This is, well, more than 7 days after the bug has been introduced into the game. And this is more than 5-6 days after it has been discovered. The premier tournament in Korea did not manage to introduce some type of hotfix to fix this bug, which to me is weird, but it is also very upsetting. And I'm going to get into why I find it very upsetting, just setting up the general timeline. Now, after all of this, people have been tweeting about it. People have been talking about it. I think I've seen like 6 or 7 Reddit threads like, hey, the Colossus has 10 range. Is this supposed to be the case? Like, no, it's not supposed to be the case. This is a bug. It's not supposed to be there. Now, I couldn't be more surprised that when this weekend that we're currently still in as I upload this video, I see the Africa Champions Cup number 2, I think it's called. A major tournament with somewhere around 1,300 EPT global points, once again counting towards the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice standings or wherever our World Championship is going to be. And this bug is not fixed. There's an insane amount of PVTs in this tournament, and this time I actually believe, unlike in the GSL where Hero got knocked out in Group B of the round of 8, in which Australia got knocked out in Group D, this tournament, it actually had an impact on some of the games, and I'll go over the actual games right now. Now, as I'm making this video, this tournament is still going on, and in Group B, we saw Classic versus Oliveira, and I think especially in the first map, there were a couple of interactions where I believe that the Colossus had a major impact having one more range. There's a specific fight at the 8-minute mark. I sadly don't have the replays and I don't have the rights to broadcast the actual game. Otherwise, I would have shown it to you guys. I believe that in a scenario where Colossi don't have 10 range, I actually think that Oliveira wins this. And there's something that is a little bit more sinister rather than just the straight up engagements that are going wrong. I believe that in the Terran versus Protoss matchup in particular, from the Terran side, when they're playing against Colossus and they have a a very snappy style where they're, poking forward, trying to snipe one unit, moving away. I feel like one of the biggest things that a Terran can have is the confidence in his own ability to judge a fight. And it is that confidence that completely gets shattered the moment you introduce something new, like whether that is +1 range on a unit or slightly higher DPS on one of the units. Like, these are maybe not super impactful bugs, although I do believe they're by themselves already quite impactful, but they also mess with the Terran sense of when they're capable of fighting, either making them overestimate positions that they have, being very unsure on whether they can engage in a certain way. And I actually believe that it's players like Oliveira, Clem, and Beyond, players that are very quick, that rely on heavy bio with lots of medevacs. I think these are the players that tend to suffer the most in this particular matchup with such a bug being introduced. So it is not just the straight up impact of that, but it is also just the fact that you're not quite sure anymore in your own abilities. And I think that is kind of insidious. Now, we saw the same in Group C. We saw MaxPax take out Beyond 2-0. We saw MaxPax take out Maru 2-1. Another thing that really, really bothers me is that I think MaxPax is an absolutely phenomenal player. And I know that MaxPax on any day of the week is going to be capable of taking out these guys with 9 range Colossus. But now, because this bug was introduced, when people will be referring back to these results, they were like, MaxPax won the game because his Colossus had 10 range. And pretty much this entire tournament result, I think, can be pretty much discounted because it's just ridiculous. I think it is so stupid. It really, really frustrates me that this managed to go through. I think it started on the 21st of July, this tournament. That is more than a week after the bug got discovered. How is it possible that this is still in? I just don't understand. I think it is awful for people that had a good performance in this tournament on the back of PVTs, because I know they have the skill to win this, and that's the case with Classic. I think Classic is really good. I don't think he's not favored against Oliveira. I think maybe they're 50-50. Maybe it's 60-40 in favor of Classic, but introduce the bug in there, and all of a sudden this result doesn't feel so legit anymore. MaxPax versus Maru, MaxPax versus Beyond. The exact same thing. You have Showtime in Group D taking out Clem. Usually Clem very often beats Showtime. People will look at his results. Well, the one time that Showtime wins, it's with the bugs. Like, well, Showtime is a fantastic player, and now his result is being doubted because of something like this. I find this extremely frustrating for the players themselves. Let's not forget, by the way, Showtime also 2-0'd Hero. This guy's a legend. But that's a story for another time. Like, I don't know. It is just super frustrating to me that a bug like this managed to sneak in like that. And I think there are, kind of 3 parties at fault here. First of all, obviously, the Blizzard side of things is at fault. They should have never made it into a live game. They should have been caught before going in. I'm not sure what the process there is of checking what goes in a live game. I think probably it should have been capable of being patched with the next maintenance window on the next Tuesday, although I'm not entirely sure of the inner workings of the company or what their protocols are to fixing something like this. I think there should have been a slightly quicker fix. Even if it wasn't possible to fix from the Blizzard side, I believe that if you're running an individual tournament that is Premier or Major status and has points towards the EPT circuit, I believe you have the responsibility to make sure that the correct version of the game is being played. One, because it secures the integrity of your tournament, and 2, I mean, you want a fair playing field. It makes no sense that for a very long time people are practicing on something else, and then during qualifiers for a tournament, it changes without any announcement. People aren't aware of it while they're playing. People didn't know whether they were playing with 10 range or 9 range Colossus. Like, it's a mess. You wouldn't want this. I think they definitely, as a tournament organizer by themselves, probably could have just gotten any map maker or any mod maker, contacted them, given them a little bit of cash, and be like, hey, could you fix this? I'm pretty sure it's not that hard if you just do a single change. I recently played a mod in which I played on all the patches all throughout Legacy of the Void. I'm pretty sure I could have contacted the guy that made all of those and been like, hey, can you have a current game mod and just make sure that the Colossus is 9 range instead of 10? I don't think it is that difficult to change. I could be wrong. I'm not a mod maker. The ones I asked said that it was definitely possible. And then the final thing, I think ESL always has the end responsibility to make sure that tournaments that are within their circuit, which is in the ESL Pro Tour circuit, that I mean, they have the end responsibility that those tournaments are fair and that the integrity of those tournaments is secured. The moment they realize there's a bug, I think they should have sent over some type of email with a protocol that these tournaments should have had. And I'm just sad mainly for the players that performed very well, or Protoss players that performed very well against Terrans in this particular tournament that you see in front of you. I'm very sad for the Terran players that got taken out by this bug or that didn't feel comfortable. They were, like I said, it really. Like, I feel very bad for Oliveira in particular, because Oliveira, due to no mistake of his own, wasn't capable of going to the last major DreamHack summer event because his visa request wasn't sent in time, I think, by ESL it was. Something went wrong there, so kind of outside of his power. And then now again, he loses a tournament. Now, of course, he can still win. I'm not saying that Terran is absolutely unplayable, but it feels very frustrating to kind of get trick like this twice in a row by outside factors. So I really feel from it. I feel the same for Beyond. I feel the same for Mar. Got second place in his group. Got a worse seed because of that in the round of 8. You know, like all of these things influence the end standings when it comes to the EPT points, future seeding in other tournaments, as well as just the World Championships. To me, this is a crazy big mistake. And there's nothing. There's nothing happening. I mean, as we're speaking today, Protoss players, the only Protoss player that was in the playoffs actually did lose against Cure. Now, I do believe that Cure's style tends to be a little bit different against Terran. I have the same with Maru, or against Protoss, where I don't feel like it impacts them quite as much as it would a player like Clem, it would a player like Oliveira, a player like Bian, who really have these snappy little interactions with Protoss players trying to snipe Colossus. So yeah, I am upset, I think for a good reason. I just hope this gets fixed. In 2 weeks, we have the Gamers 8 coming up. Now, I honestly believed that everything would be fixed already. By this week, I would have believed that it would be fixed for Heroes GSL group last week. But because nothing seems to be done, I figured, well, I'll make a video and at least get some public attention to it. If such a major tournament like the G8 is going to be played with this massive of a bug, or even the fact that people right now need to practice with such a massive bug in the game, I think is really ridiculous. I don't think this is necessary either. Sure, I know that the amount of resources dedicated to StarCraft 2 aren't as big as they used to be back in the day, but this is damaging for the integrity of tournaments and for the circuit. I don't think this should be happening. So yeah, all right, that's going to be my little rant for today. I hope if you're watching this and you can do something, please do something about it. Get a mod going if you know how to do it. Send an email to everyone you know and their sisters. Luckily, GSL, there's no Protoss in the tournament anymore, so we're not going to walk into any more troubles there. First next tournament is going to be G8. That is going to be very, very massive, and it's got to be fixed by then because this is not okay. Signing off. Thanks for watching.